What big changes does Etsy have in store for 2020? Will they abandon their big push for free shipping? Are they going to launch an Etsy Prime Day? Will they overhaul their search algorithm? Stick around to hear our fearless predictions about what Etsy has in store for 2020 in this episode of The Jam.
I'm Lisa.
I'm Jade.
I'm Gordon.
I'm Richie, and this is The Jam with Team Marmalead. So what is Marmalead? Is it a set of tools? Is it a resource? Is it education? Yes. Yes, it is. It's all of those. Marmalead helps you grow your sales with real shopper keywords. We use machine learning to take the guesswork out of getting found on Etsy. So if you have an Etsy shop and you want your listings to be found first by shoppers, you want them to show up in the right places where shoppers have an opportunity to buy them, then you want Marmalead. You want the keywords we have, and you want the education and the community around Marmalead to help you get there. Now you can check out Marmalead at marmalead.com, and that is marmalead.com. See you there.
All right, guys, so what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about some fun and fearless predictions about what Etsy might have in store for 2020. Richie and I put our heads together and came up with 3 different things that we think that Etsy might be implementing or the direction they might be heading in 2020. So we're going to talk about those, and we're going to talk about how you can prepare for those as a seller and kind of be on top of things, maybe even before they happen. And the good news is, even if you go ahead and implement these changes, there's like no downside to doing these things. It's only going to improve you, even if these 3 predictions don't happen to come true this year.
Yeah, these are things that we think are beneficial, whether or not they actually come to pass. It's still things that we think are beneficial for you and your shop going into 2020.
Let's dig in.
Yeah, let's dig in. So when Etsy does their quarterly reports, they like to break things into 3 different categories. They always talk about their best-in-class search and discovery. They talk about human connection, and they talk about being a trusted brand. And they kind of layer things underneath those 3 core pillars. And so we took that cue, and we're going to do the same sort of thing here. So we've got a prediction for each of these 3 categories. And the first one up is best-in-class search and discovery. Now, what we're thinking they're going to be doing this year is they acquired Blackbird Technologies, what is it, Richie, like 3 or 4 years ago now?
I'll say between 2 and 4, but yes.
Okay. Somewhere in that window, right? And they've been slowly implementing more AI stuff into their search algorithm, trying to get smarter with what they're putting in front of people. Now, image-based recognition isn't quite to the point yet where you can put a photo in front of the computer and it can tell you exactly what's in that picture and, come up with all these little tiny details of what's going on here and there. But if you have enough words, it can start to categorize things. It can start to figure out like, okay, this is a car, this is a person, right? So one of the things that we think that Etsy is going to be doing in 2020 is leaning more into that sort of technology. Now, what we mean by this is they're likely going to be taking an image, like your main image from your listing, and they could put that through some computer-based learning algorithm that's going to look at that photo and see what kinds of objects it can recognize in that photo. So let's say it's a candle holder, right? Now, their image recognition might be able to look at that and say, hey, there's a candle holder in this photo, or at least I think there is, right? There's a pretty good chance there's a candle holder in this photo. Now, if you're using candle holder as one of your keywords on your tags or in your title, that could give you a bump in search. If they can verify that the keywords that you're giving them are present in the photo that you've selected as your cover photo, that could theoretically give you a bump in search, because as customers are searching for things, they're going to be doing that on their own anyway, subconsciously. They're going to be kind of verifying like, okay, look, I searched for this thing and here's what's showing up. And oh yeah, this is a necklace, right? Like that is what I was looking for. But if they're seeing photos that are confusing or don't always include the term that they searched or not even what they searched for at all, that's kind of confusing to them, and that's not a good experience that they're having shopping on Etsy. Etsy wants to avoid that. So it really wouldn't surprise us if Etsy starts to lean into this image recognition space and start incorporating some of those things as a way of verifying the keywords that you've already picked for your listings. And for people that they're able to do that for, give them a little bit of a bump.
They're constantly talking about improving relevancy, and we definitely see that as something that would improve relevancy. And as far as the basis for that, why they might go that direction, they already care about title and tag match, right? So they want your keywords to be in your title and tag as extra, points for relevancy that it is that. So throwing image-based search improvements in there, image recognition, that fits right along what they've already been doing.
So my question is, in terms of how, people actually do photography for their products. Say, let's go back to Gordon's example of the candle holder, that you've got a candle holder, but then they want to add some, something to make the photo more appealing. So maybe there's a plant in the corner, or maybe there's, the candle holder is sitting on the edge of a letter or something like that. Is that going to be confusing, or is that just one more reason to make sure that you've got a really strong connection between your keywords and what's going on in the main thumbnail?
Yes, so like you're saying, that can be a double-edged sword, right? Like, for your main photo for your product, I would suggest not getting too crazy with contextual clues and props and things like that for that photo. I think you definitely want to have one of those photos. You've got 10 photos you can use on your listing, but I don't know that I would use a photo like that for my cover photo, like for the main photo that's going to come up in search. I think you really want that to be as clear as possible that, this is the product that the listing is for. Very clear, so that when someone just glances at it, they immediately know which thing in that photo is the main product.
Very good.
And so that's something that, as a seller, you could go ahead and implement that now. You could make sure that your main photo is one that definitely showcases your product and doesn't have a whole lot of distraction of other things that are in there, contextual things. Again, I think that's an important thing to do in one of your other photos, not the main one.
Agreed. So where image recognition is right now also is if you showed a photo of a bunch of things, it's just going to pick out all the different things it sees in there. It doesn't know what the focus of that photo is. So if you have a picture of, you talk about a candle holder and there's a tree and there's like ornament, right? It doesn't know what actually is, the focus here. What should I be looking at? It's just going to say all the things that are in the photo, kind of like one of those books, like, hey, can you find this? Well, image recognition is great at finding Waldo, for example.
That makes sense.
Yep. So the next category that we wanted to talk about was human connections. Etsy, these three things, again, Etsy really tries to kind of push the changes that they make to be in line with these areas. And we've seen a lot more changes recently in line with human connections. So, for example, Etsy recently just overhauled their entire messages portion of their shopping experience. It's much more of like a text message style conversation now. It used to be sort of like an email style view of all of your messages. You'd go there, it's kind of like an inbox, and you could see all of your different messages. Now it's much more of like a text string conversation or a chat window than an email or like a forum sort of look that it used to have to it.
All right. So on the human connections part, one of the first things we talked about was more personalized chat. Kind of like when you're on a website now and that little chat bubble pops up and says, hey, somebody's here to talk to you. We're thinking that Etsy's going to go more towards that. And for a lot of reasons. They talk about human connections as one of their big selling points, one of their big competitive advantages, or what they sometimes call their right to win. And they really want to own special. It's how they want to compete with Amazon and really anybody else. And like Gordon was saying, where they redid their whole messages interface and now is more of a chat, it's a lot more like what you're going to be seeing in a Facebook Messenger or something like that. And they have a lot of cool stuff in there, which I'm sure you've seen, which has order history, has prior messages. You can leave personalized notes for yourself so you remember people. It seems that they're really going for a boutique kind of feel, so that when you shop on these different Etsy shops, it's not just you're buying from Etsy, you are shopping with that individual and having a relationship there. And they're trying to go for repeat buyers, or one of the other things they're calling them are habitual buyers.
Yeah. And so as a seller, one of the things you can do, is kind of lean into where Etsy's trying to go with this and putting chat more on the forefront. Richie and I had talked about, when you walk into a store, if the store owner kind of greets you and knows you and recognizes you, that's definitely building more of a relationship than if, you walk into a Walmart and someone's there that says hi, but they have no clue who you are, right? They see hundreds of people a day. They can't place you out of the rest of them. So something that you can do as a seller is if somebody's coming back to have a conversation with you and you've seen this person before, they've ordered something from you before, mention that, like, hey, like, how's it going? How's that thing working out for you? Has it been okay? Have you had issues with it? Like, start to have more of a personal conversation with your customers. And that's something that is unexpected in the digital space. I think when people are shopping online, they're not expecting to have that sort of interaction. Even when they're in most brick and mortar stores, I don't think that's expected. But when it happens, you walk in through the door someplace and someone greets you and remembers you and asks you about something you talked about last time you were there. And that's something special that people are going to remember as a customer, and it's only going to make them want to come back more.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that it's kind of difficult to achieve sometimes in an e-commerce setting because there's even, less connection. But something that we talk about, something that Jade has talked about actually several times, is making sure that you're giving them access to sort of those more personalized behind the scenes type photos and experiences in your shop, making sure that your pictures, like your about pictures and your profile picture and all that stuff, really offers them that opportunity to sort of make a connection with you. Because building relationships, like you were saying, Gordon and Richie, that's a huge part of bringing that conversion rate to a good place.
Absolutely.
Welcome back is really powerful.
Yeah.
Welcome back. There's a relationship there, right? You got over that first barrier of, do you have what I want? Can I trust you? Which really boils down to trust, right? Can I trust you? And once somebody's coming back, you already have that, right? And you remember them, and there's trust there too, right? When you come back and somebody doesn't remember you, like the Walmart example, right? You're going to come across just different people every time. There's no real personal relationship. They don't remember you. You don't remember them. It's probably a different person, right? But when it's welcome back, you can pick up where you left off before. You don't have to lay all that trust groundwork again.
Yeah, totally agreed. It's like you've already done the handshake. You've already done one order, so you trust the process, you know what you're getting into, and you can start to sort of build that relationship. I think that's why the boutique experience is rising in popularity so quickly, and why Etsy really wants, shop owners to sort of go after that, because it is more personal. And it's something people are willing to spend more money for, because I think in general, you've got a lot of shoppers that are sort of tired of the Walmart big box experience and want that more personal, more boutique experience that comes with a relationship.
Definitely. I could see some shops being worried about getting stuck in long conversations, right? And not having the time to do it. But the nice thing is, if this was in a physical location, we've all been in those conversations where it's like, oh my gosh, I just need to get back to work. And if I need to find a really nice exit point with this person who's in my physical space to end this conversation. The nice thing about digital is you're not going to have that problem.
Yeah. Great point.
Right. You have a digital barrier between you, which is nice. And I also don't think everyone's going to take advantage of this, but I think the people who you most want as customers are.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Let me jump in real quick to let you know that if you're enjoying this podcast, you should definitely check out our free 3-part miniseries about Etsy SEO. It's designed to take you from what is Etsy SEO to an example of an efficient Marmalead workflow. Check it out at marmalead.com/jam2020. So the third section that Etsy talks about in their quarterly reports a lot is being a trusted brand. So this is something that's important to them. And we kind of talked about trust a little bit already and how that kind of plays hand in hand with the human connection part of things. But it also kind of goes beyond that a little bit. And one of the things that Etsy's done in this space recently is really, really amp up how prominent reviews are featured in listing pages. So, I mean, it used to be that it was like listing, photo, price, title, description, right? And now it's kind of like photo, title, price, reviews. The description has kind of been pushed over to the right-hand side, at least on the desktop, and you can't even read the entire thing unless you click a View More button at this point. They don't use the description for keywords. It's only for kind of describing the product and answering questions, things like that. It's still important to have that in place because you want to answer people's questions up front, but for how Etsy has placed it, they have put way more focus on reviews. They also used to not show reviews by product. So like if you would be in someone's shop and click a listing as a shopper, you would see reviews for that shop. So it could have been for other products that shop had created and sold and how those things were received, but it wasn't necessarily for the listing that you were looking at. And now it's been a while, but Etsy has changed it since then to show now the product that you're viewing. If there's reviews for the product that you're on, that's the one that you're going to see. You're going to see those reviews first. It's really been something that they're leaning on to kind of build that trust as a brand. Like, look how many other people have had a good time with this listing and with the shop. The reviews here are strong. And when you compare reviews on Etsy with, say, Amazon, Man, I'm going to say like the average review on Amazon that I see is like a 3.5, maybe 3, something like that. On Etsy, it's almost consistently 4.5 stars. If I see something less than 4 stars, it is super rare to see something like that on Etsy. It's almost always 4, 4.5, 5 stars that you're seeing. I think Etsy's looking at that and they're recognizing like, look, this is something that makes us special. You know, these sellers here are really delivering top quality products in a timely manner. They're keeping their customers happy. That's something that we want to help separate us from the other places online where people might be shopping.
It's like walking into Target, right? And then you're looking at something and somebody says, hey, I can sell you that for, 75% of the price. Just meet me in the parking lot out back, right? And you're like, I'd rather not do that. I'm just going to buy it here from the store that I trust in the box, and like I can bring it back there. There's a lot of value to trusting, where this is coming from. There's really 3 different points of trust that go into making a sale. You've got to trust where it's coming from, like the manufacturer. You got to trust the person selling it to you and recommending it to you. And then you've got to trust the product, that the product is actually going to be what you want. And so for Etsy, they're that big marketplace. They could step in as they're not the manufacturer, but in that example, they kind of are. They're that big circle umbrella. The shop is that other smaller circle umbrella. They're the ones that are kind of recommending this to you. And then the product itself is once you're in the shop and you're saying, okay, I trust that this is the right product for me. It's going to make me happy, or it's going to make the person I'm giving this to happy, which in turn will make me happy.
So our big fearless fun prediction for trusted brand area is that Etsy's going to lean even more into this review space. They're going to introduce the ability for sellers to perhaps pin or favorite a review so that review sticks to the top. Obviously it's something that a customer wrote about you, so it's a fair thing to do. It's not like a fictitious review that you can put up at the top there, but it allows you to really pick out and showcase one of the reviews that you think is the strongest. And yeah, the other thing that wouldn't surprise us is if Etsy starts putting these reviews in more places around their website, like on the homepage, on some of the category pages, using them more as testimonials than reviews, really. But to just kind of get that trust front and center. Don't wait for shoppers to do a search, filter, find a listing, go to the listing page to see what people are saying about the sorts of things that are on Etsy. Show them right off the bat, put it in an email that's going out, put it on the homepage, put it in different spots throughout the app. So it's going to be really important to make sure your reviews are strong and that, when people have a good experience, they're doing you the favor of leaving you a positive review.
So would you recommend that folks find a way to ask for the review as a part of the sales process?
I absolutely would, because I don't think that many shoppers naturally think to do that unless they have a bad time with something. So if you're not asking for it, you're kind of stacking the deck against yourself, and the more often than not, the people that are going to think to go leave a review are going to be the ones that didn't have the best experience with something. The ones that are super happy with stuff won't even cross their mind, Maybe it will for a small percentage of them, but to get those good reviews, it's definitely something that would be a good thing to ask for.
I don't think shoppers realize how important it is for the most part. And, to a small shop, because, when you go and buy something from a big box, you don't really think about leaving a review, or a large manufacturer, you don't really think about leaving a review. And for the most part, it's not because I don't want to or don't have the time. It's because I don't think it's going to matter. So I think you just have to motivate people. If it's important to somebody, then of course I want to leave a review. And of course other people want to, if it matters. But if they don't think that it matters, then they just see it as a waste of time and they won't do it.
I think that's an excellent point, because it's something that I've actually been seeing more and more on our threads and Facebook groups and stuff, is people saying, now that the reviews are becoming more important, because that shift is already seeming to start to take place, and people are saying, how do I get these reviews? And so like Gordon was talking about, like I was asking, you've really got to figure out how to transition into asking for positive reviews. It's easy for people to remember negative experiences, but you're going to have to kind of remind them to remember this positive experience that you're providing for them. It's going to be really integral, I think, moving into this new year.